Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're unpacking a really fascinating historical methodology, one that was specifically designed to develop emotionally intelligent leaders. We're talking about leaders who know how to cultivate deep, authentic friendships and serious trust within their teams. You know, if you've ever wondered how some leaders just naturally build groups where people genuinely care for one another, where the bonds feel a whole lot more like close friendships than your standard stiff professional ties, well, the answer might actually lie in a pretty wild experiment from the 1940s.
Okay, let's dive right into this. I want you to picture your workspace. Imagine stepping into a meeting room, but there is absolutely no predetermined agenda, there's no organizational structure, and no designated leader to guide the conversation. Think about that for a second. For most of us professionals, that sounds like a total recipe for chaos, right? Or at the very least, just extreme awkwardness. You sit down, the facilitator doesn't give you a topic, and suddenly the silence is literally deafening. But as our sources revealed, this exact scenario was actually designed to be one of the most transformative leadership experiences ever created.
This intentionally ambiguous setup, this blank slate, is the core of what's called a T group, which stands for training group. It basically serves as a live, interactive laboratory for dramatic individual and team development. It's completely different from traditional education. One of our sources brilliantly calls traditional learning the vaccination approach to knowing, where you just get, an injection of information. But a T group, it requires participants to become their own subjects. You learn from immediate, shared experiences by giving and receiving incredibly open feedback.
So let's break down the mechanics here. The crucial point is that by removing all those normal organizational structures, participants are forced to focus solely on the here and now. When you strip away the usual distribution of power and the normal ways we structure our time, strong feelings inevitably emerge. People have to cope with that ambiguity and figure out how to meet their own needs for control and belonging in real time, and in doing so, they start sharing their immediate feelings. That vulnerability breaks down professional barriers and fosters genuine work relationships that are incredibly akin to deeply connected real-life friendships.
If you look at the original papers from early practitioners, you'll see facilitators actively discouraging any intellectual side trips into the there and then. That means no stories about past events, no complaining about people who aren't in the room. By intentionally frustrating the group with this strict here and now focus, members absolutely must build deep trust just to survive the discomfort. If the group navigates this successfully, the resulting intimacy allows for incredibly sensitive feedback and bonds that simply cannot be forged in a standard Tuesday morning status meeting.
Section 1. A happy accident in 1946.
What's really wild is that this powerful tool for building authentic leadership wasn't meticulously planned out. Actually, it was a total accident. Let's check out the timeline. In 1946, visionary psychologist Kurt Lewin hosted a workshop in Connecticut aimed at easing community tensions. After the daytime sessions, the researchers would have an evening debrief. Well, some of the workshop participants just happened to overhear this, asked to join the discussion, and began reacting to the researchers' observations. This sparked a revolutionary, real-time feedback loop. It was electric. Lewin and his team realized that having people learn from their own behavior as it was happening was profoundly impactful. And just like that, the entire T-group methodology was born, leading to the founding of the NTL Institute shortly after.
This method became so universally impactful that the renowned psychotherapist Carl Rogers literally called the T-group the most significant social invention of the century. No joke. It wasn't just a training exercise anymore. It was a completely new way of democratizing the workplace and humanizing interactions, totally moving away from those rigid, authoritarian command and control structures.
Section 2. Boom, bust, and backlash.
Let's see how this all builds into a dramatic rise, fall, and scandalous corporate backlash during the 1970s. Because hey, no revolution happens without a little friction. By the mid-1960s, T-groups were enthusiastically embraced for organizational development by massive entities. We are talking giants like Standard Oil, TRW, and even the U.S. military. Over 20,000 corporate executives traveled to NTL laboratories to learn participative, emotionally intelligent leadership. Organizations realized that if they wanted leaders who could unify teams and build loyalty that felt like unbreakable camaraderie, they absolutely needed this level of interpersonal sensitivity.
But, well, here's the catch. As this historical document from an early practitioner points out, taking this raw vulnerability directly back into the office proved pretty tricky. In-company sensitivity training became a highly delicate issue. Participants were sometimes seduced by the tightly knit, supportive atmosphere of the T group into revealing deeply inner thoughts. Unfortunately, in the cutthroat competitive corporate world of the 1970s, those revelations sometimes ended up in performance reviews, or worse, were used as ammunition in political infighting, severely damaging people's careers.
This backlash also happened because valid, work-focused T groups began morphing into unregulated encounter groups in the 1970s. While T groups focus on group dynamics in the here and now to improve how we work together, encounter groups shifted focus heavily onto the individual. They pushed way into deep personal therapy, boundary-pushing exercises, and actively stripping psychological defenses. This pushed the methodology far past its professional usefulness, causing it to lose favor in mainstream corporate training for a good while.
All right, Section 3, Fostering Authentic Team Relationships. Fortunately, the core methodology survived that 1970s bust for one simple reason: it works. It has an absolutely unparalleled ability to develop emotionally intelligent leaders capable of forging deep, unbreakable bonds at work. And it all comes back to Kurt Lewin's foundational formula: behavior is a function of the person and their environment. B equals F of P and E. By changing the environment, specifically by removing the usual corporate agenda, the hierarchical seating, the expected talking points, you fundamentally change the behavior. It forces leaders to step out of their formal titles and confront how their actual human actions truly impact others in real time.
So, how do you actually build relationships that mirror authentic, highly trusted friendships? Leaders take these specific steps in a T group lab. First, they solicit direct peer feedback to reduce their blind spot. You know, the things others see about them that they just don't notice. Second, they experiment with authentic self-revelation, owning their feelings, which shrinks their hidden area. Finally, by doing both of those things, they dramatically expand their open area. And this is the magic spot. This is where genuine connection, mutual understanding, and deep empathy really thrive.
All this deep vulnerability and emotional intelligence directly results in what modern researchers like Harvard's Amy Edmondson call team psychological safety. When leaders learn through T groups how to manage their own defensive reactions and genuinely listen during intense moments, they create an environment where members can speak up, report errors, and challenge the status quo without any fear of embarrassment or retaliation. This is absolutely essential if you want a high-performing, deeply connected team.
Section 4. The Modern Leadership Revival.
So why are we seeing a modern rebirth of the T group as an elite tool for mastering social and emotional intelligence today? Well, because of numbers exactly like this. Research by Daniel Goleman suggests that over 80% of the distinguishing competencies of outstanding leaders are made up by emotional intelligence, rather than just traditional IQ or technical skill. 80%. The ability to read a room, build profound trust, and foster a team culture that resembles a supportive friendship, that is the ultimate competitive advantage right now.
You can literally see this revival firsthand at Stanford's Graduate School of Business. They use T groups as the foundation for their legendary Touchy-Feely course, which is officially named Interpersonal Dynamics. It's been the most popular elective at the school for 45 years running. It's taken by roughly 90% of the MBA class every single year. These future executives spend about 60 hours in T groups, completely transforming how they build trust, handle conflict, and navigate diversity long before they ever step foot in a boardroom.
And the empirical data totally backs this up. A classic 1975 study proved that structured, agendaless experiential learning is unmatched for achieving actual behavioral change. Think about it. It is one thing to read a textbook on leadership. It is entirely another to sit in a room, stripped of your title, and learn exactly how your tone of voice or your body language makes another human being feel right in that moment. That is how you foster authentic, resilient workplace relationships.
So, as you reflect on your own leadership journey and the emotional intelligence of the groups you're a part of, I want to leave you with this final provocative thought. Are you cultivating a culture of authentic relationships where genuine, friendship-level trust can thrive, or are you just managing a roster of employees? The history of the T group shows us that true leadership isn't about controlling the agenda, it's about mastering the human connection. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I really hope this sparks some fresh ideas for your own teams.